You're listening to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge.
Hello and welcome to eLearnChat, our new podcast featuring prominent leaders, shakers and movers in the e-learning and training industry. My name is Rick Zanotti, and I'll be your host for these chats. In this chat, you'll meet Angie Hubert, Senior Implementation Consultant for OutStart. She's an expert in learning content management systems.
Angie, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Rick?
I am doing very well. Angie, tell me a little bit about what you do with OutStart.
Sure. So my role at OutStart is as a senior implementation consultant. And what I do is I work with our customers to help them not only become familiar with our products, but also to enable them to be successful using our products, finding out what their business needs are, and then helping them to utilize any of our products really in order to meet their business needs.
Why don't you explain for the audience, for those who aren't familiar with it, what an LCMS is and what some of the features of OutStart's LCMS are?
Love to. An LCMS stands for Learning Content Management System. What the tool allows you to do is to develop content without presentation or technology assigned to it. So you're storing it in the tool. And then after you've developed that content, then you can deliver it in many different output types. The beauty of an LCMS is that specifically OutStart LCMS, is that you can store your content within the tool, and when you're ready to deliver it, you can decide, well, I would like it to have these presentation characteristics or this look and feel, and then be in this technology. So for example, let's say that I've developed some content for new hire training, and I want to deliver an e-learning version of that. Well, I can export that, assign the look and feel, and deliver that via any of the industry standards and post it on my LMS and deliver it. Likewise, if I wanted to, say, print out a student guide for an instructor-led version of that course, I can go through the export process, and on exporting to, say, Word or PDF, the presentation or the look and feel is assigned. So that's a little bit about what specifically OutStart LCMS offers.
So ideally, the content is not just a training course, but it can be all the additional materials that go with the course as well?
Absolutely. We actually use OutStart LCMS to develop all of our training content at OutStart. And we not only store the training content for our online courses, but also our instructor-led training courses. And then we'll store things like the notes that go to the instructor that are specific to the instructor within the tool. And then on export, we can define, which pieces of content should go to which export types.
What kind of customers would benefit most from something like an LCMS?
Good question. I would tell you that we have customers that are commercial and government. They range from maybe smaller departments within an organization to, huge corporations. And ultimately, the customers that I work with have a need to manage their content. Typically, our customers find themselves having to update content that is scattered all over the place. Maybe I have, instructional designers or course developers. Some of them are working in maybe an e-learning authoring tool like Flash, and then maybe some of them are working in Word, and they're finding themselves really needing to quickly update content. So typically our customers have a need, and the need is that their content is all over the place, and they really want to, they want to manage it.
As far as what an LCMS does, do you find that the LCMS applies to other parts of the company or strictly the learning side of it?
I would say typically that it's for the learning side. I mean, LCMS is a learning content management system. So typically the content that organizations are authoring or developing in the LCMS are creating learning or training content. The export types that are supported are not solely for delivery of learning content, but we do support the industry standards. Also, the print outputs to Word and PDF and then mobile devices. So it really is geared toward the learning department, but tell you that because of training happens in all facets of an organization, right? So even if it's not just the training or the learning department, it could be the sales organization that has their own needs for storing learning content.
You mentioned also mobile. Are you starting to do work with mobile learning?
Absolutely. Outputting to mobile has been something that OutStart LCMS has supported, as long as I've been working with the product, which is about almost 4 years now. However, last year with the merger with Hot Lava, we're finding more and more organizations taking advantage of that and really looking to support as many different mobile device output types. So I think that we'll see more and more customers wanting to take advantage of delivery to mobile devices.
And what do you see as some of the challenges? And then on the inverse side of that, what are the benefits of an LCMS?
The challenges. I would say that one of the biggest challenge from the standpoint of the user is it's a little bit of a different methodology, right? My background is actually in instructional design and course development and simulation development. I've used a lot of tools to create training. When you're using the LCMS, you are not focusing on the output per se, you're focusing on the content. And that's a challenge for developers and instructional designers because traditionally very used to focusing on where am I placing something on a page, if you will, or how is it going to look, rather than just focusing on the content. Now, I say that as a challenge, but it's also a great benefit, right? So if we take the time away from someone that's an instructional designer who's, their focus is on content, and we enable them to not have to worry about things like the look and feel. We're actually giving them a good opportunity to create really solid content, right? Because they're focusing on actually authoring content, not worrying about how it's going to look.
Right.
So that's a big challenge because it is a shift for developers and instructional designers. It's not like traditional authoring tool because you're just really storing content at that point, but it's also a benefit in the long run.
One of the most interesting things we find is that even though everybody wants reusability, people fall into the habit of never reusing content. How do you folks work around the training part to get people used to reusing, if you will?
Great question. And I probably could have gone on and on about benefits and probably shouldn't have stopped there, but I'm glad you brought up one of the key benefits of using an LCMS is the reusability, right? So it enables you to be able to store content in the system once and reuse it wherever it would occur. That is a challenge. How do we enable folks to reuse the content? And part of what my job is to work with customers to identify how they're going to use the LCMS to meet their needs, meet their business goals. And almost every implementation I do, one of the business goals is to reuse content. Knowing that, I work with the customer to talk about, well, how are we going to author content so that it can be enabled to be reused? Before using the LCMS, using traditional tools, the developer might not be thinking about, well, this piece of content could be reused elsewhere and not tying it to specific other parts of the content or using anything that would give it away that it couldn't be reused, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I really try to work with customers to say, what will be your reusable content and how are you going to enable it to be reusable?
Another thing with LCMSs, a lot of people, I've heard stories that they have very long implementation cycles. I've also heard that it doesn't have to be that long. What do you see as a normal project life cycle, time to implement?
Well, I would tell you that it's different for every customer. Anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks is about typical. Again,
what makes up the OutStart LCMS?
The main piece of the OutStart LCMS is going to be the authoring tool. And this is where content authoring is performed. And it's really not about just authoring. It's really developing content so that it can be stored in the tool and that it can be searchable, reused, and single-sourced or delivered to multiple output types. So that's probably the main piece of the LCMS where most designers and developers would do their work and store content. Now, once content is stored in the LCMS, it is centrally managed. You can use metadata, and the metadata can actually be defined by the client. So every client I've worked with actually uses a little bit of a different metadata schema because their metadata is different. You can use metadata to search for that content and find it so that it can be reused. That's a huge piece of the authoring environment as well.
Where can people find out more about OutStart and the product lines that you have?
Well, our website is the best place to go. It's www.outstart.com. And from there, you can find out about all of our products, including OutStart LCMS. Find out about Hot Lava, our mobile products. You can find out about Participate, our social business software product. Trainer, which is our e-learning authoring tool. SoftSim, which is our simulation development tool. I think I got them all. I may have missed one. Oh, and the LMS.
Oh, that's great. Well, Angie, I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. It was really nice talking with you. You can also feel free to share my email address if anyone has any questions.
Need help with your e-learning development? Visit www.relate.com.